You open an app to choose something simple, a movie, a meal, a pair of headphones, something that should take 1 minute. At first, it feels good. So many options. Comedies, thrillers, documentaries, new releases, top picks, hidden gems, recommendations made just for you. One choice becomes 10. 10 becomes 50. And then something strange happens. You are no longer choosing. You are scrolling. You are comparing. You go back to the first option, then the fourth option, then the one you almost picked 12 minutes ago. And by the time you finally choose something, you do not feel free. You feel tired. That is the strange thing about choice. Before you start choosing, more options feel like freedom. But while you are choosing, more options can feel like pressure. Not because your brain is broken. Not because you are bad at decisions. Your brain is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. It is comparing, predicting, trying to protect you from a bad choice. But in a world of endless menus, infinite feeds, thousands of products, and too many possible paths, that same ability can turn against you, because every extra option gives you more than another possibility. It gives your brain more work. The first mistake is thinking choice is only a gift. It often is. Too little choice can feel limiting. Some choice can feel empowering. If there is only one restaurant nearby, one job available, one shirt in your size, or one movie on television, you may wish the world gave you more. More choice can mean more control, more possibility, more chance of finding something that fits you. That is why choice looks so attractive from the outside. A bigger menu looks better than a smaller menu. A larger store looks better than a smaller store. A streaming platform with thousands of titles looks better than one with 10. But there is a difference between having options and choosing between them. Before the decision, options are possibilities. During the decision, options become information, and information has to be processed. Your attention has to move from one thing to another. Your memory has to hold details long enough to compare them. Your mind has to ask questions. Is this better? Is this cheaper? Is this healthier? Is this more popular? Will you still want this tomorrow? What if the next option is better? Every new option adds another small comparison, not one huge weight. A small one, then another, until the choice that looked simple from the outside becomes heavy on the inside. That is one reason too many choices can make you miserable. Not because choice is bad, because comparison is work. You can feel this most clearly when the options are similar. Two very different movies may be easy, a comedy or a horror film. You know what mood you are in. But 20 movies that all look almost good enough create a different problem. Now your brain has to search for tiny differences. The rating, the thumbnail, the length, the actors, the mood of the trailer, the mood you are in now, the mood you might be in later. The same thing happens with food delivery. 3 restaurants are easy. 50 restaurants become a project. One has better reviews. One is cheaper. One arrives faster. One looks healthier. One has a discount. One has the meal you always order. And suddenly dinner is not dinner anymore. It is a decision system. Your brain is not only asking, what do you want? It is asking, which option will you regret least? That question changes everything. Because the moment regret enters the choice, every option becomes a small risk. If you choose this, you might miss that. If you buy this, you cannot buy the other one. If you watch this, you spend the evening here instead of somewhere better. A choice is not only a selection, it is also a rejection. When there are 2 options, you reject one. When there are 50 options, you reject 49. And even if you never say that out loud, your brain notices. The final choice becomes surrounded by the choices you did not make. This is the hidden cost of choice. Every option you choose carries the alternatives you gave up. And the more alternatives you see, the more visible that cost becomes. That is why choosing can feel worse after you have looked at too many things. You may end up with something good, but now you know how many other good things you left behind. This is where too much choice becomes emotionally strange. You can choose a good film and still feel uncertain. You can buy a good product and still read reviews afterward. You can order a good meal and still wonder what another person ordered. The problem is not always the quality of the choice. Sometimes the choice is fine. The problem is that the search taught your brain to imagine something better, somewhere else. One more scroll away. One more tab away. One more review away. And that creates the trap of the perfect choice. Some people look for an option that is good enough. They have a few criteria. If something meets those criteria, they choose and move on. Other people try to find the best possible option. Not good. Best. At first, this sounds smart. Why settle for good if better might exist? But when the number of options grows, best becomes harder and harder to prove. You cannot know if something is truly the best unless you compare it with everything else. And in modern life, everything else does not end. There is always another product, another review, another ranking, another recommendation, another person who chose differently. So the search for the best option can continue long after the decision should have ended. And even when you finally choose, your mind may not feel satisfied. It may feel suspicious, because if the goal was perfect, good can feel like failure. This is one of the quiet reasons choice can make you unhappy. Not because you chose badly, because you expected the choice to remove doubt completely, and it did not. A famous study captured part of this problem. In one experiment, shoppers saw a display of jam. Sometimes the display had many varieties. Sometimes it had only a few. The larger display attracted more attention. People were more likely to stop and look. That makes sense. More choice is more interesting at first. But when it came to actually buying, the smaller display did better. Fewer options made action easier. That study became famous because it shows a contradiction you can feel in daily life. A lot of choice can attract you. Less choice can help you decide. But the science is more careful than the popular version. This does not mean more choice is always bad. A large choice set can help when you already know what you want. It can help when the options are organized. It can help when you have filters. It can help when the differences are easy to understand. If you are an expert buying camera equipment, more options may be useful. If you are exhausted at night choosing a movie from an endless grid, more options may become noise. So the real problem is not choice itself. The problem is unstructured choice. Choice without clear categories. Choice without priorities. Choice without a stopping point. Choice where every option looks close enough to consider, but not clear enough to choose. That is when freedom begins to feel like pressure. You can see this in digital life. Many modern systems are built to keep options open. Streaming platforms keep recommending. Shopping sites keep showing similar products. Social media keeps offering another post, another video, another person, another trend. Nothing has to end. There is always another possibility. That can feel convenient. But it also means your brain rarely gets a natural signal to stop comparing. In a small shop, the shelf ends. In a short menu, the list ends. On a traditional schedule, the decision ends because time moves on. But in an endless interface, the next option is always available. So your mind keeps asking the same question. What if the better one is next? That question turns choice into a chase. You are not simply choosing what you like. You are trying to avoid missing the best possible thing. And the harder you chase that feeling, the harder it becomes to enjoy what you finally pick. Because enjoyment needs attention. Regret splits attention. Part of you is watching the movie. Part of you is thinking about the movie you skipped. Part of you is eating the meal. Part of you is thinking about the restaurant you almost chose. Part of you is using the product. Part of you is checking if another one went on sale. That is why a good choice can feel strangely unfinished. The decision is over, but comparison continues. There is one more layer. The more choices you make, the more tired choosing can feel. This does not mean your brain has a simple battery that drains in a perfectly predictable way. Human decision-making is more complicated than that. But repeated choices can increase mental effort. They can make you less patient. They can make you want to avoid the next decision. That is why small choices often feel harder at the end of the day. Not because the question changed, because your mind has already spent hours comparing, filtering, answering, planning, and correcting. By evening, even a simple question can feel annoying. What do you want to eat? What should you watch? Which message should you answer first? Which task should you finish? These are not enormous life decisions, but they arrive after many other decisions. And when your mental space is crowded, even a small choice can feel like one choice too many. That is why I do not care. Just choose something can feel so familiar. It is not always a lack of preference. Sometimes it is a request for less comparison. So, what does this mean? Not that you should remove all choice. Not that simple is always better. Not that the best option never matters. The lesson is more subtle. Your brain handles choice better when choice has structure. A smaller menu can feel better than an endless one because it gives your mind a boundary. A filter can help because it removes irrelevant options. A clear criterion can calm the decision because it tells your brain what matters. A good enough option can feel freeing because it gives the decision permission to end. The goal is not to stop caring. The goal is to stop forcing every everyday decision to prove that it was perfect. Because many choices do not need perfection. They need closure. You do not need the perfect movie every night. You need a movie you can actually watch. You do not need the perfect meal every time. You need dinner. You do not need the perfect product in the entire market. You need something that fits your real criteria. And sometimes, when you reduce the number of options, you are not reducing your freedom. You are reducing the noise around your freedom. Think again about the opening scene. You were sitting there, scrolling through endless choices, wondering why something simple felt so difficult. It was easy to blame yourself. Maybe you are indecisive. Maybe you overthink. Maybe you do not know what you want. But there is another explanation. Your brain was trying to protect you from a bad choice in an environment with too many possible choices. It was comparing, predicting, imagining regret, keeping alternatives alive, searching for a perfect answer where a good answer would have been enough. And once you see that, the whole scene changes. You are not trapped because you had too little freedom. You were trapped because every option was asking to be compared. More choice can open the door, but too much unstructured choice can fill the doorway. And sometimes, the moment you stop searching is the moment you can finally enjoy what you chose.